We told our son to forgive his brother for getting his wife pregnant. Now he's gone forever, and we haven't seen our granddaughter in years. For most of my life, I believed family meant protecting your own, even when they were wrong. My name is Eleanor Whitmore, and if I could go back to that afternoon in our dining room, I would choose different words. But I can't. So instead, I'm writing this, not for sympathy, not for forgiveness, but because maybe someone else will read it and make a different choice than I did. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my husband's early days at the firm, and he'd been home for less than an hour when Callum called. Our eldest son. The responsible one, the one who always had his life together, the one who never caused problems. "I need to see you and Dad," he said. His voice was flat. Clinical. "Tomorrow afternoon, Damon needs to be there, too." My husband and I sat in the formal dining room the next day, the table that had hosted decades of family dinners suddenly feeling like foreign territory. Damon arrived first. Our youngest was pale, couldn't meet our eyes, kept running his hands through his hair like he used to do as a boy when he'd done something wrong. Then Callum walked in. He had Celeste with him, his wife of 8 years, the mother of our granddaughter. And behind them, quiet and confused, 6-year-old Lillian held her father's hand. I knew immediately something was catastrophically wrong. Celeste's eyes were red and swollen. Callum's face was blank, the kind of blank that comes from feeling too much and shutting it all down. "Sit," my husband said, gesturing to the chairs across from us. Callum didn't sit. He stood behind a chair, one hand resting on the back of it, the other still holding Lillian's small hand. When he spoke, his voice was steady. Controlled, like he was presenting a diagnosis to a patient. "Celeste is pregnant," he said. 14 weeks. My husband started to smile. Started to offer congratulations, but Callum kept talking. "The baby isn't mine." The room went silent. Not the kind of silence where you're waiting for more information. The kind where the air itself feels like it's been sucked out. "It's Damon's." I looked at Damon. He was staring at the floor, shoulders hunched, every line of his body screaming guilt. Celeste started crying. Quiet, broken sobs that she tried to muffle with her hand. Callum just stood there, still holding Lillian's hand, still calm. Too calm. "How long?" my husband asked. 6 months, Celeste whispered. "It started last summer, at the lake house." "I'm so sorry. Callum. I'm so don't." Callum's voice was soft. But final. He looked at Damon. "Do you have anything to say?" Damon finally looked up. His eyes were wet. "I never meant it, just I'm sorry." "God, I'm so sorry." "You're sorry," Callum repeated. Not a question. Just an observation. I should have stood up right then. I should have told Damon to get out. I should have put my arms around Callum and told him we were on his side, that we saw what had been done to him, that he had every right to be destroyed. But I didn't. Instead, I thought about our family, our reputation, the scandal this would cause. I thought about Damon, my baby, the one who always needed more help, more guidance, more protection. I thought about how Callum had always been fine, always landed on his feet, always figured things out. I thought Callum was strong enough to survive this. I thought Damon would fall apart without us. So I made a choice. "Callum," I said, my voice taking on that firm, maternal tone I'd used his whole life when I needed him to listen. "Your brother made a terrible mistake. Celeste made a terrible mistake, but they're still family. We need to think about what happens next, about Lillian, about keeping this family together." My husband nodded beside me. "These things happen. It's devastating. But we can work through it. Together. As a family." I watched Callum's face as I spoke. I watched something shift behind his eyes, something I didn't understand then, but recognize now. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even hurt. It was realization. "You want me to forgive him?" Callum said quietly. "I want you to think about the bigger picture." I said. "Think about your daughter. Think about our family's reputation. Think about your brother's future. A divorce, a scandal, all of that pain, it doesn't help anyone." Callum looked at me for a long moment, then at my husband, then at Damon, who was crying now, openly crying. He didn't say anything. He just nodded slightly, like he'd heard something I hadn't actually said. Then he turned to Lillian. "Come on, sweetheart, we're going home." "Callum, wait." I started. But he was already walking toward the door. Lillian looked back at us, confused, clutching her father's hand. Celeste reached out toward him, saying his name, but he didn't even glance at her. He opened the door, guided Lillian through it, and left. I looked at Damon, at Celeste, at my husband. "He'll come back," I said. "He just needs time to process." Callum looked at us for a long moment, like he was memorizing the people who had chosen the wrong side. Then he stood, took Lillian by the hand, and quietly walked out the door. I thought he'd come back. I was wrong about everything. The first 3 days, I convinced myself it was shock. Callum needed space to process. He'd always been the logical one, the one who thought things through. Once the initial emotion wore off, he'd see that we were trying to protect everyone. I called him that first night. Voicemail. I texted the next morning. No response. My husband tried calling from his phone. Nothing. Give him time, my husband said, setting his phone down at breakfast. He's hurt. He needs to cool off. Celeste stayed with us those first few days. She was a wreck, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just sat in the guest room crying. Damon came by twice, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. They didn't speak much. Just sat in the same room, drowning in what they'd done. On the fourth day, Celeste packed her things and moved into Damon's apartment across town. I can't stay here, she said. I can't. I need to figure out what happens next. What happened next was the divorce papers. They arrived on day 7. Overnight delivery, thick manila envelope, law firm letterhead I didn't recognize. My husband opened it at the breakfast table, his coffee going cold as he read. He's filing, he said quietly. Grounds of adultery. He's requesting full custody of Lillian. Full custody? I repeated. He can. My husband's jaw was tight. Celeste won't contest it. Not with everything. I grabbed my phone. Called Callum again. Voicemail. I left a message this time. Callum, it's your mother. Please call me back. We need to talk about this. You're being rash. Think about Lillian. Think about what's best for her. Call me. He didn't call. Week 2. I drove to his house, the beautiful colonial he and Celeste had bought 3 years ago, the one with the big backyard where Lillian learned to ride her bike. I knocked. No answer. His car was in the driveway, but the curtains were drawn. I knocked again. Harder. The door opened. Callum stood there in a t-shirt and jeans, looking thinner than he had a week ago. Behind him, I could see boxes, packing boxes. Mom, he said. Not hostile, not warm. Just neutral. Can I come in? We need to talk. No. The word was so flat it took me a second to process it. Callum, you're my son. You can't just shut me out. We're worried about you. We want to help. Help? He repeated the word like he was testing its weight. You had a chance to help. You chose differently. That's not fair. We were trying to keep the family together. We were trying to think about everyone. You were thinking about Damon. His voice was still calm. Still controlled. Somehow that made it worse. You were thinking about your reputation. You were thinking about avoiding scandal. You weren't thinking about me. That's not true. Mom, he cut me off, gentle but firm. I need you to leave now. Callum. He closed the door. Not a slam. Just a quiet, final click. I stood on his porch for 5 minutes trying to decide if I should knock again. I didn't. Week 3, his number changed. I found out when my call started going to a generic automated message instead of his voicemail. Week 4, the gossip started spreading. Small town, big scandal. I'd see people at the grocery store, at church, and watch them whisper. Some people stopped talking to us entirely. Others asked pointed questions disguised as concern. I heard about Callum and Celeste. Such a shame. How's everyone handling it? What could I say? That my youngest son had gotten my eldest son's wife pregnant? That we'd asked the victim to forgive the perpetrators? That our family was imploding? I said what I'd been telling myself. It's a difficult situation, but we're working through it as a family. The lies came easier each time. Week 6, I tried to see Lillian. I showed up at her school during pickup time. I just wanted to see her, to make sure she was okay, maybe take her for ice cream like I used to. I never got close enough. Callum's car pulled up and he saw me immediately. He got out, walked straight to me. If you try to contact my daughter again, I'll file for a restraining order, he said. Same calm voice. Same dead eyes. Stay away from us. Then he collected Lillian from her teacher, buckled her into the car, and drove away. She never even saw me. My husband and I stopped talking about it after a while. What was there to say? We'd made our choice. We'd asked our son to sacrifice his dignity, his marriage, his self-respect for the sake of family unity, and he'd chosen differently. He'd chosen himself and his daughter over us. He'll come around, I kept saying. He just needs more time. But I was starting to understand, really understand, that time wasn't going to fix this. That Callum wasn't cooling off or processing or working through his emotions. He was leaving. Month 3. His house went up for sale. Month 4. It sold. Some young couple from 2 towns over. They had no idea about the history of that house, about what had broken there. I tried calling one more time. The number I'd found through his work directory. It rang twice. Then Callum's voice, "Stop calling. There's nothing left to say." The line went dead. Then the letter arrived. Short. Legal. Final. Custody confirmed. Contact revoked. I held that paper in my hands and felt the first crack in my certainty. But even then, I didn't understand what we'd truly lost. The custody paperwork said supervised visitation denied. I read that line over and over, trying to make sense of it. We were his parents. Lillian was our granddaughter. How could a court just erase that? My husband called the lawyer whose name was on the documents. Left 3 messages. None were returned. I tried finding Callum through mutual friends. His college roommate, the guy he played tennis with on Saturdays, his colleague from the hospital. Every single one gave me the same response. He asked us not to share information about him. I'm sorry. Like they'd been prepared. Like he'd warned them we'd come looking. Month 5, I called the hospital where he'd worked for 6 years. The receptionist put me on hold, then came back with a tone that was too careful. Doctor, Whitmore is no longer with our facility. What do you mean? Where did he go? I'm not authorized to share that information. I'm his mother. I understand, ma'am, but we can't provide forwarding details for former employees. I hung up and immediately called back, asked for his department head. Got the same script, delivered more politely. He'd left his job. No forwarding information. No trace. That's when I started to panic. He can't just disappear. I told my husband that night. We were in bed, both of us staring at the ceiling instead of sleeping. He has a career. He has a daughter. He has a life here. Had, my husband said quietly. He had a life here. Celeste was 7 months pregnant by then. She'd moved in with Damon officially, though neither of them seemed happy about it. When I visited, the apartment felt like a tomb. They'd sit together on the couch, not touching, both drowning in what they'd broken. Have you heard from Callum? I asked Celeste once. She shook her head, tears already forming. She cried constantly now. Every conversation, every mention of his name. The divorce was finalized last week, she whispered. I signed everything. I didn't fight anything. I couldn't. Did he say where he was going? No. His lawyer handled everything. I never saw him again after that day. The baby came in December. A boy. They named him something I don't even like to say out loud, because every time I hear it, I'm reminded that this child exists because my family shattered. I held him once, in the hospital. Looked down at his tiny face and felt nothing but a hollow ache. This wasn't joy. This wasn't new life bringing us together. This was the evidence of what we'd chosen, what we'd allowed. Damon barely lasted 10 minutes in the room with me. He made an excuse about getting coffee and didn't come back for an hour. When he did, his eyes were red. He won't answer my calls, either. Damon said later, when it was just the 2 of us in the hospital hallway. I've tried to apologize. I've tried to explain. He blocked me on everything. What did you expect? The words came out harsher than I meant. Damon looked at me like I'd slapped him. You told me. You said we could work through this. You said family forgives. I know what I said. So, why does it feel like I'm the only one being punished? I didn't have an answer. Because the truth was, we were all being punished. Damon by his guilt. Celeste by her shame. My husband and I by the growing silence between us. The unspoken blame that poisoned every conversation. And Callum? Callum punished us by leaving. Completely. I hired a private investigator in month 8. Paid him $2,000 to find my son. He came back 3 weeks later with an address in a city I'd never visited, over 1,000 miles away. A new job at a different hospital. A new house in a good school district. He covered his tracks well. The investigator said. Changed his phone, his email, his professional profiles. If he didn't want to be found, I'd say he did a damn good job. Can you get me a phone number? I can get you one. Whether he'll answer is up to him. I paid extra for the number. Called it that same night. It rang 4 times. I thought it would go to voicemail. Then, yes? Callum's voice. Tired. Flat. Callum, it's Mom. Please don't hang up. Click. I called back. Blocked number. I called from my husband's phone. Blocked. I tried from Damon's phone the next day. That one didn't even ring. Just straight to a recorded message. This number is no longer in service. He'd changed it again within 24 hours of me finding him. My husband stopped sleeping through the night. I'd wake up at 2:00, 3:00 in the morning and find him sitting in his study staring at photos of Callum as a boy. Graduation pictures. Family vacations. All the moments that felt like lies now. We made a mistake. He said once, not looking at me. We were trying to keep the family together. No. His voice cracked. We were trying to keep Damon from falling apart. We sacrificed Callum to save Damon and we lost both. He wasn't wrong. Damon barely visited anymore. Maybe once a month and even then he'd stay for an hour, hold his son awkwardly, and leave. The guilt was eating him alive. I could see it in the way he couldn't meet our eyes. Couldn't stay in the house for more than a few minutes without finding an excuse to go. Celeste stopped coming entirely. Too painful. She said. Too many memories. The house that had once been full of Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings sat most days. Just my husband and me rattling around in rooms that felt too big, too quiet. I told myself we made the right choice. I told myself time would heal this. I told myself Callum would eventually reach out, that Lillian would want to know her grandparents, that this wound would close. I was lying to myself. Years have passed now. The house feels emptier than ever. Damon barely visits anymore. And somewhere out there, Callum is living a life we'll never see, raising a daughter we'll never know. We thought we were protecting our family, but the truth is far crueler. We destroyed it ourselves. It's been 5 years since that afternoon in the dining room. 5 years since I watched Callum walk out the door with Lillian's hand in his. 5 years of living with what we chose. Let me tell you what those years look like. Damon lives 3 states away now. He moved when his son turned 2, said he needed a fresh start. He calls on holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, my birthday if he remembers. The conversations last maybe 10 minutes. We talk about weather, about his job, about nothing that matters. He never talks about Callum. He never brings his son to visit. The last time I saw my grandson was 8 months ago. Damon drove up for Easter, stayed for dinner, left before dessert. The boy is 5 now, looks like Damon did at that age, but there's something missing in his eyes. Or maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I just can't look at him without seeing what he cost us. Celeste isn't in the picture anymore. She and Damon lasted 3 years before she left. I heard about it through Damon's ex-worker, not from Damon himself. Apparently, she couldn't live with what they'd built together. A relationship born from betrayal doesn't grow into anything healthy. It just rots slowly until someone finally has the courage to walk away. She sends the boy birthday cards. That's the extent of her mothering now. My husband changed after that first year. Used to be he'd defend our choice, insist we'd done the right thing, but somewhere around year 2, he stopped saying it. Started spending more time at work. Started drinking more at night. We don't talk about Callum. We haven't said his name out loud to each other in over a year. But I see my husband looking at the photos sometimes. The one still hanging in the hallway, Callum's medical school graduation, his wedding day, that picture of him holding newborn Lillian in the hospital. My husband will stand there for minutes at a time, just staring, and I know he's thinking the same thing I am. We chose wrong. Our social circle evaporated. The friends who used to come for dinner parties, who'd spend weekends at our place, who'd been part of our lives for decades. Gone. Some of them took sides. Most of them just quietly distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. I heard what people say about us. The Whitmores who asked their son to forgive the brother who slept with his wife. Can you imagine? What kind of parents do that? I can't imagine, but I did it anyway. Lillian is 11 now. I know because I still remember her birthday, still mark it on the calendar every year like somehow that matters. I wonder what she looks like, if she still has that gap between her front teeth. If she still loves dinosaurs like she did when she was 6. If she remembers us at all. Or if Callum erased us so completely that we're just strangers she used to know. I tried finding them online last year. Spent hours searching through social media, looking for any trace of Callum, any photo of Lillian. Nothing. He'd scrubbed everything. Private accounts, if he had them at all. No digital footprint. No way in. The house feels like a museum now. 2,300 square feet of empty rooms and memories that hurt to look at. My husband rattles around in his study. I spend most days in the garden, pulling weeds, because at least that's something I can fix. We used to host Thanksgiving here. 30 people, sometimes more. Family, friends, neighbors. The dining room table would be packed, wine flowing, laughter echoing through the halls. Last Thanksgiving was my husband and me. Damon called, said he couldn't make the drive. We ate in silence, turkey for 2, and went to bed at 8:00. This is what we protected. This is what we chose. I think about that afternoon constantly. I replay the conversation in my head, change my words. Imagine different outcomes. What if I'd stood up and told Damon to leave? What if I'd put my arms around Callum and told him we stood with him? What if I'd chosen differently? But I didn't. I chose reputation over justice. I chose the son who broke trust over the son who had it broken. I chose what was comfortable over what was right. And the price was everything. My husband found something last month. A medical journal with Callum's name on a research paper. Proof that he's still out there, still working, still living his life. There was no photo, no personal information, just his name and credentials in a hospital I didn't recognize. We stared at that journal for an hour. Neither of us knew what to say. Callum is fine. He's more than fine. He's successful, published, moving forward. He doesn't need us. He never needed us. He just needed us to be on his side when it mattered most. And we weren't. I lie awake at night and replay that afternoon. I hear my own voice asking Callum to forgive his brother. To think about reputation. And I wonder, what kind of mother chooses the son who betrayed over the son who was betrayed? I need to tell you the truth about why I did it. Not the reasons I told myself at the time. Not the justifications I used to sleep at night. The real reason. I chose Damon because I thought Callum would be fine without me. That's it. That's the ugly, simple truth. Callum was always the strong one. Even as a boy, he was self-sufficient. He didn't need constant reassurance or guidance. He figured things out on his own. When he fell, he got back up. When he failed, he tried again. He didn't need me to fix his problems because he fixed them himself. Damon was different. Damon needed me. Needed his father. Needed constant support and encouragement and sometimes outright protection from his own mistakes. And I told myself that made him more deserving of that protection. I looked at Callum standing in that dining room, devastated and betrayed, and some twisted part of my brain calculated, he's strong enough to handle this. Damon isn't. So, I protected the wrong son. It wasn't about family unity. It wasn't about reputation, though God knows I used that excuse enough times. It was about control. I was so used to being the one who fixed things, who managed family dynamics, who decided what was best for everyone. And in that moment, I saw two paths. Support Callum and watch Damon potentially fall apart, or support Damon and trust that Callum would eventually understand. I chose wrong because I underestimated how much damage I was doing. I chose wrong because I thought strength meant the ability to absorb betrayal. I chose wrong because I believed family meant protecting the weakest member, even at the expense of the one who'd done nothing wrong. But here's what I didn't understand then. Callum was my own. He was my son. My firstborn, the child I'd raised, loved, been proud of for 34 years. And when he needed me most, when he needed his mother to simply say I'm on your side, I told him to forgive the unforgivable. I asked him to sacrifice his dignity for the sake of his brother's comfort. I asked him to swallow his pain for the sake of appearances. I asked him to be the bigger person while everyone else got to be small. And he looked at me like I was a stranger. Because in that moment, I was. My husband and I have talked about it exactly once in the last 5 years. It was late. We'd both been drinking, and he said, we thought we were being wise. We thought we were preventing worse damage. We were cowards. I said. He didn't argue. I think about the conversations I'll never get to have with Callum. The apologies I'll never get to make. I've written letters I'll never send, practiced speeches to empty rooms, imagined scenarios where I somehow get the chance to explain. But what would I even say? I'm sorry I chose your brother over you? I'm sorry I valued reputation over justice? I'm sorry I failed the most basic test of motherhood, protecting your child when they're hurt? None of it would matter. None of it would undo what I did. Sometimes I imagine Callum's life now. I imagine he met someone new, someone who actually deserves him. I imagine Lillian has siblings now, a whole family that loves her and supports her father. I imagine holidays at their house. Warm and full of laughter, the kind of family gatherings we used to have. And I'm not in any of those images. Neither is my husband. We're just absent. Erased, like we never existed. Because to them, we don't. Callum didn't need us. That's what I finally understand. He didn't need our approval or our support or our presence in his life. He needed us to do the right thing once, and when we didn't, he simply built something better without us. He rebuilt. He moved on. He created a new family, a new life, a new definition of what family means. And we're not in it. That's what haunts me most. Not that he's angry. Not that he hates us. But that he's fine. He's happy, he's successful, he's living a full, complete life, and our absence from it hasn't diminished it at all. We were never essential. We just thought we were. I used to believe family meant protecting your own, even when they were wrong. But Callum taught me something I learned too late. Family only matters when it acts like family. When it stands up for what's right. When it protects the people who deserve protecting, not the ones who are easiest to protect. We didn't act like family. We acted like cowards who valued comfort over courage. And Callum showed us exactly what that costs. The cruelest part? Callum's revenge wasn't dramatic. It wasn't public. It was simply this. He lived well without us. He proved that family only matters when it acts like family. And we didn't. I'm writing this because maybe someone else will be in that dining room someday. Maybe someone else will face that choice. And maybe, if they read this, they'll choose differently than I did. This isn't a plea for sympathy. I don't deserve it. This isn't an attempt at redemption. There isn't any. This is just the truth about what happens when you choose wrong and have to live with it. My husband died 2 years ago, heart attack in his study, surrounded by those photos he used to stare at. The doctor said it was sudden. But I know better. It was 5 years of guilt and regret and unspoken blame eating away at him until there was nothing left. He never said it out loud, but I know he died thinking about that afternoon. About the son we lost because we chose the son who didn't deserve choosing. Damon called when he heard. Drove up for the funeral. Stayed for 3 days. We barely spoke. What was there to say? His father was dead. His brother was gone. And the family we tried so desperately to protect had disintegrated anyway. He hugged me once before he left. Whispered, I'm sorry. Into my shoulder. I don't know if he was apologizing for the affair or for not being worth what we sacrificed for him or for the fact that we were both still here living with the consequences while Callum was somewhere else living free of us. Maybe all of it. He hasn't visited since. Just calls on Christmas. We talk for 5 minutes. He asks how I'm doing. I lie and say I'm fine. We both know the truth. His son is 7 now. I saw a photo once posted on some social media account Damon forgot to make private. The boy looks happy. Carefree, unaware that he's the living reminder of the day our family died. Celeste is remarried, I heard. Some man from her new city. They have a daughter together. I'm told she's a good mother to that child, better than she was to the son she had with Damon, the one she barely sees now. Everyone moved on. Everyone rebuilt. Everyone except me. I'm 73 years old sitting in a house that's too big and too quiet writing this confession to strangers on the internet because there's no one left to tell. Lillian is 13 now. A teenager. I wonder if she remembers us at all. I wonder if Callum told her what happened or if he just let us fade away like we never mattered. I wonder if she's happy. If she has friends. If she still loves dinosaurs or if she's moved on to something else. I'll never know. That's my punishment. Not anger. Not confrontation. Just absence. Just the quiet permanent erasure of us from their lives. Callum's revenge was perfect because it wasn't revenge at all. It was simply choosing himself and his daughter, building something better, and never looking back. He didn't destroy us. We did that ourselves. He just refused to let us drag him down with us. I know what I should have done. I've known for 5 years, played it out in my head 1,000 times. I should have stood up the moment Damon admitted what he'd done. I should have told him to leave. I should have put my arms around Callum and said, I'm on your side. We're on your side. Always. I should have chosen justice over comfort, truth over appearance, the victim over the perpetrator. But I didn't. And now I live in this empty house with photos of 2 sons on the walls, one who's gone and one who might as well be. The dining room where it happened is still here. I haven't changed anything. Sometimes I sit in the same chair I sat in that afternoon and try to remember what I was thinking. What made me believe I had the right to ask Callum to forgive the unforgivable? I can't remember. Or maybe I don't want to. What I do remember is his face, the way he looked at me when I asked him to put family first. Like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. Like he was watching his mother become a stranger. I deserve to remember that look for the rest of my life. If you're reading this and you're ever in that position, if someone you love is betrayed and you're asked to choose sides, choose the person who was hurt. Choose justice. Choose what's right, even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it means losing the person who did wrong. Because some choices can't be undone. Some people don't come back. And some revenge is simply living well without you while you live with what you chose. I chose wrong. I chose comfort over courage. I chose the son who broke trust over the son who had it broken. I chose what was easy instead of what was right. And the cost was everything that mattered. Callum is out there somewhere, living a life I'll never see, raising a daughter I'll never know, probably happy, probably surrounded by people who actually deserve to be in his life. And I'm here, alone, in this empty house, with nothing but regret and the memory of the afternoon I destroyed my family by trying to save it. That's what I would say to Callum if I ever got the chance. I'm sorry. I chose wrong. You deserved better. You deserved a mother who stood by you when it mattered most. But I'll never get to say it. And maybe that's exactly what I deserve. If you ever find yourself in that dining room, with that choice in front of you, choose differently than I did. Because some damage can't be repaired. Some people don't come back. And some revenge is simply living well without you. While you live with what you chose. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.